What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. We're doing Tombwatcher from HackTheBox, which starts out with a pretty lengthy Active Directory attack chain which will test your in-packet and BloodyAD knowledge. However, you'll come to a dead end that is tough to enumerate yourself past. If you look at Certipy output, you'll see a SID, not user object, can do what you need. The SID is shown because Active Directory cannot resolve the object as it's currently a tombstone, which is essentially just saying it is soft deleted. When dealing with computers, it is important to remember delete does not mean purge. Oftentimes, delete is just moving something to the recycle bin where it can be restored at a later time. Once we realize this, we can restore the object, take ownership, and then perform Active Directory Certificate Services Escalation Technique 16 in order to get root. So with that being said, let's just jump in. As always, we can start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv enumerate versions, -vv for double verbose. This gives us things like the TTL, OA output all formats put in the nmap directory, and we'll call it Tombwatcher, and then the IP address of 10.10.11.72. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have 12 ports open. The first one is DNS on port 53, and has the default Active Directory banner of Simple DNS+. So whenever I see that, I do confirm, yes, Active Directory is running. We see it on LDAP here. And then the domain is tombwatcher.htb, so I'm going to add that into my host file. So let's do sudo v etc host, and then add 10.10.11.72, tombwatcher.htb, and the certificate also gives us the host name, which is dco1. So let's go ahead and add that as well. So dco1 tombwatcher.htb, and I'll add the host name or NetBIOS name of just dco1 as well. So we have all three names for the Windows box. Let's see what else we have on nmap. I'm mainly looking for non-standard things. We have an IIS server listing on port 80. So if we go here and search HTTP Tombwatcher HTTP, we just get the welcome page. We could try like DCO1 as well, and we still get the IIS page. So I'm just checking for like virtual host routing, if it gives a different web page per host name that we give it. Doesn't look like that's the case. So let's take a look at what else we have, right? We have Kerberoast, LDAP. Let's see what else. This is a little bit odd. Maybe I'm just blind and this is always here, but we see this other name, this weird OID, and it says unsupported. Don't actually know what this is. If we go to Google, I was hoping to type Google. I'm just going to Google that OID, see what it says. NTDS replication. I don't know exactly what this is. Something maybe a smart card login related, but okay. Let's see. If we get stuck, then we'll know kind of what to look at. We have SMB open, some more Kerberoast stuff, secured LDAP, and then probably going to be like global catalog as well. So there's really nothing too interesting from nmap. It does tell us there is a 4-hour clock skew. So if we want to do anything Kerberoast related, we know we have to run NTP date to sync the time. So let's take a look at what else we have, right? This is an assumed breach box. So we start out with a set of credentials. The username is Henry, and this is the password. So I'm just going to validate that with NetExec. So do SMB, DCO1, Tombwatcher, HTTP, username Henry, password of, that's not the password. There we go. And let's make sure we get authenticated. And then once we do, I always like just checking for open shares. And then while this runs, I'm also going to run RustHound. So we'll do RustHound. Domain is tombwatcher.htb, username Henry, the password of that. There we go. And actually, hold on one second. I'm going to do a, let's see, we did the password, a -z. So everything gets zipped up at the end. And if you're wondering why I switched over to RustHound, it's mainly because it collects a lot more things than the Python ingesters like certificate templates. So if I ran the Bloodhound Community Edition or NetExec, it wouldn't collect all these things. So RustHound seems to do a better job at collecting things. SharpHound is the best, but we need to have an interactive session on the box. We don't have that, so that's why I'm defaulting to RustHound here. Let's see. So we just ran Bloodhound. Let's go ahead and start up the server. So I'll do op Bloodhound server, docker compose up -d, and this should start things up. And if I go over into Chromium, I find this to be better than Firefox for Bloodhound. Firefox is just laggy for me. This seems to be a lot better. So I'm going to upload files, and then I'm going to go to HTTP. Where is Tombwatcher? Titanic, there we go, Tombwatcher, give it the zip, upload it, and now it is ingesting. It can take a minute or two for this to run. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to do. We could check for low-hanging fruit, let's say like Kerberoast things. So we can do like LDAP and then -- Kerberoasting. It wants an argument. I think if I do dash, it'll go to standard out. Let's see. And there's no Kerberoastable users. KRB TGT, which is disabled, and it skips it. And even if it was, this is going to be a randomly generated password, so we can't crack it anyways. It looks like partially complete. There is one error. I always get one error. I don't know exactly what that is, but it seems to be working. I say seems to, and we get no data available. I wonder if it doesn't actually like the zip. Let's do 7zx on this. Upload files, HTB, Tombwatcher. Let's give it all these JSON files, not that zip. Upload. So I think when we give it the zip, if it errors on a file, it just won't ingest. But if we give it all the JSON individually, maybe it ingests correctly. Because there's definitely no data available. That is odd, but good to know. So it looks like whenever I'm not using that zip, I'm actually working past a bug and did not realize it. It's still ingesting. I'm probably going to pause the video here and we'll resume when this is done. Okay, we are now done. So let's go back over to Explore and see what we have. If I go to my user that we have compromised just because it gave us the credential, I'm going to mark them as owned. And then I always like just clicking on outbound control and see what we have. So Henry can write the SPN to Alfred, and that is service principal name. So whenever you give an account the service principal name, you can crack, you can do Kerberoasting. So we can do a targeted Kerberoast attack on Alfred, potentially crack his password, and then let's go ahead and see what Alfred can do. So if we had compromised him, he can add himself to the infrastructure group. So let's see what the infrastructure group can do. It can read the group managed service account password of Ansible development. And what can Ansible do? Let's go to the outbound control. Ansible can force the password change of Sam. And also it's a member of Domain Computers and can enroll in a few certificates. But let's see what Sam can do. Outbound control. He can write the owner to John so he can take ownership over this account. And now what can John do? Let's go over to outbound control. It is generic all to this organizational unit. So anything in this organizational unit, John can take over. And if I look at it, there's nothing here. We don't have any users groups, whatnot under it. But we have a relatively long path to John. I'm just going to go to path finding. We can do Henry, type in John here. And I'm going to make this on the screen because I think that's going to be easier for us to analyze later. Let's go like that, this. This is definitely a long attack chain. There we go. So as Henry, we can write the SPN to Alfred. That'll let us do a targeted Kerberoast attack. If we can crack the password, then we can add ourselves to the infrastructure group, which then we can read the GMSA password of Ansible, which lets us change the password to Sam, which lets us take ownership over John so we could change the password. And since we know ADCS is most likely installed, we could also do a shadow password so we can grab the NTLM hash that way. So let's start off this attack chain. We're going to start off by doing the targeted Kerberoast attack. And I'm not going to show the Python script that automates it all just because you always have to clone it. I don't have that script handy. But if you wanted to use that, we got targeted Kerberoast on ipsec.rocks. Like you can see, I probably did it in administrator or vintage. We're just going to do this manually with BloodyAD. I also like doing it manually because you can see exactly what is going on. So let's go back here. If we do the NetExec, let's go Henry, and we try to do Kerberoasting, we'll get no results here, right? So I'm going to run BloodyAD, think like that. Yep. And then -u, Henry -p, we'll put in Henry's password. And then we want to do host 10.10.11.72. And then we're going to set object and we're going to set something on Alfred. And I think if we do -H, it'll tell us what we can do. Target SAM account name DN. Oh, that's the target. So we're specifying the SAM account name and then the attribute. And the attribute we want to use is SPN. And that's going to be service principal name. And it is case sensitive. The first character is normally lowercase, and then the next two words normally have uppercase for the first. It's a weird casing thing that BloodyAD likes, but it is pretty particular. And then we do -V, and this is going to set the value. So we're setting the service principal value to anything we want. I'm going to just do HTTP pwned. We can set it to anything, and once we do this, we will now be able to do a Kerberoast attack. Watch. Right here, we got one record, clock skew. So let's do NTP date, 10/10/11/72. We have to do that with sudo. And now we can do NTP date to set the time. No eligible servers. There we go. I'm not sure exactly what went on there, but now we have set the time. So let's go ahead and rerun our NetExec, and hopefully we get a hash. We do. So what I'm going to do now is unset this, right? So if I take away the value, this is how you tell it to unset. So here we have service principal name has been updated. And if I run this again, let me just go ahead and copy this hash real quick. There we go. So if we run this again, it's no longer going to give us a hash because we remove that service principal name. There we go. So let's go ahead and SSH into the Kraken, which is just a box on my network. You can just run hashcat on your host machine. I wouldn't recommend doing it in a VM because it will go slow. But I'm going to do v hashes. The name of this box is Tombwatcher. And we'll do Kerberoast, I guess. That's not it. There we go. Then /hashcat. Opt. Oh, this is going to be the hashes first, right? Hashes Tombwatcher. There we go. Opt word list RockU for the dictionary. And this should crack it relatively quickly. We have to specify the type. It is a Kerberoast 5, so 13100, I think. Let's see. There we go. It has cracked it already. And it is basketball. So the password for the first step is going to be basketball. And that was Alfred. So let's go back here. And I'm going to do vcreds.text. Alfred basketball. And then we also can set Henry and put Henry's credentials here. Always should get in the habit of logging passwords as you get them, right? There we go. Okay. So now we have Alfred. We can add ourselves to the infrastructure group, which will let us read the GMSA password over Ansible dev. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm going to run, let's see, do I have BloodyAD here? Let's just do that again. BloodyAD. We'll do host 10/10/11/72, user Alfred, password of basketball. And then what we want to do is add group member, lowercase g, capital M, and then infrastructure, Alfred. So what we're going to do is add ourselves into this group. There we go. Alfred has been added. And now we should be able to run NetExec with Alfred and do GMSA, Group Managed Service Account. So NXC, LDAP, 10/10/11/72, Alfred, P for basketball, and then GMSA. And if you're ever curious how to do things, normally if you just click on the edge, it does give you instructions within Bloodhound on how to do things, right? This is using GMSA dumper. I'm just using NetExec. It's a bit of shorthand to do it a little bit quicker. Tombwatcher, Alfred, basketball did not authenticate. Alfred, basketball. I wonder if I have to do domain. Let's do DCO1. Tombwatcher HTTP. Was it a capital B or something? Basketball. Alfred. ALFRED. I think I typoed I typoed basketball. There's an extra T. There we go. And we have the NTLM hash for Ansible dev. So let's go ahead and add this to our host file. So creds.txt, Ansible dev, put in the hash, save that. And then what could this account do? So now we are here. We can force the password change of Sam. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll be using BloodyAD again. But I just want to look at the arguments to see if there's a different way to set the password hash. Because for the Ansible dev account, we only have the NTLM hash. We don't have the password. And it looks like we just do colon, then the NTLM hash. So let's go ahead and do BloodyAD, then host 10.10.11.72, username Ansible_dev $. And I'm going to put this in single quote so it doesn't treat the $ as a special character. The password, we're going to do a colon, then the NTLM hash. And let's see, we want to do set, and I want to say it's just password. It is. So password. And then we want the target first. So the target is going to be Sam. And then the password I'm going to use is please subscribe bang. So let's copy this real quick so it's on my clipboard. Save it. There we go. We have successfully changed Sam's password. And Sam can write the owner of John. So let's use Sam to change the owner back to us. So I'm going to do BloodyAD yet again. We'll do Sam. The password is going to be please subscribe. And this will now be set owner of John to Sam. So now we own the John account. So now that we own John, we can add generic all permissions to it. So we can do add generic all John Sam. And now that we have generic all, I'm going to use Certipy to create a shadow credential. We could just change John's password, but I always hate changing the password if I have another route to do something, right? So let's do a Certipy shadow auto u sam at tombwatcher.htb. The password of please subscribe. The account is going to be John, and we'll do DCIP of 10.10.11.72. Sam, password, account. There we go. So now we're going to get the TGT of John. And once we do, we'll have the NTLM hash of this account. And then we can do anything as John. Is that the final step we have? I believe it is. At least according to Bloodhound, we don't have anything else, right? This, when we clicked outbound, we're now just generic all over that ADCSOU. If we look at the member of, I am a member of remote management, so we can now at this point use evo_winrm and get on the box, right? So let's go ahead and save this hash for John. So v creds John, put in this hash here, and now I'm going to use evo_winrm to get on the box. So let's give it the IP address of 10.10.11.72, username of John, and the hash of that. And here is where I struggled quite a bit because there's not too much enumeration that's easy to do from the Windows box itself, or at least I don't know of it, right? You could get user.txt, but really you have to run Certipy or go deep into Bloodhound and then notice something really particular, right? So if we went back to Bloodhound and we do the Cypher queries and then go look at certificates, certificate services, let's see. I don't think it's this, right? That's just the hierarchy. Enrollment rights. Yeah, this one. So this is going to show certificates and enrollment rights. And there's going to be one odd thing. Enterprise admin, that's not odd, right? Domain admin, whatever. But we have this SID right here, right? And this SID can enroll onto web services. And normally when you just see the SID, this means that Active Directory can no longer resolve this identity, right? And the reason why is this user is deleted. We could search that. But my next step was, I wonder if that Certipy is going to show me the same thing. So let's go ahead and run Certipy real quick. So let's do Certipy find -u is going to be, what user are we? John -hashes that. And then target 10, 10, 11, 72. I want to say this is the correct syntax. Looks like it is. We could also add the -vulnerable, but it will hide all the certificates that we want, right? There's nothing vulnerable from this user. The main thing I want to look at is what this web server certificate is. If I click on it, we can see information about it. Everything here is going to be what Certipy tells us as well. This is why, like Bloodhound or RustHound, if you use the Python ingester, you don't see this information because it doesn't collect certificates. But there we go. We have the results. So let's go ahead and look at it here. It was the web server. There we go. So enrollment rights. And again, we have a SID, right? So we want to look at exactly what this SID is. If I go back into WinRM, and we're going to run get AD object, and we'll give it the filter of object SID is equal to the SID we have. And we want to get all properties. So we'll do properties star. And it gives us nothing, but we didn't include the include deleted objects. So if we specify this, we now get an item. The account is going to be cert admin, and the location, let's see, is going to be in ADCS, right? So if we go back over to our user, which I think was John, is the last hop we had. John had generic all over the ADCS unit, right? If we do outbound object control, we have generic all. Now, this isn't showing us there is a user underneath this OU. That is going to be the cert admin. It is deleted, but if we restore the object, then we'll have generic all over cert admin, and we can either change the password or again, use that shadow command and obtain the password, right? So that's what we're going to do here. So let's go back into Evo WinRM, and I'm going to specify restore AD object, and then identity, and we'll give it this SID. Cannot find object. That is weird. Let's see, where's the SID? Maybe we want the object GUID, not SID. That's probably it. Let's specify this. There we go. So now that account probably exists again. So if we do get AD object, I'm going to take that include deleted off, and we can. Awesome. So let's go and exit this. And then I'm going to do that shadow. And let's see, we are John at Tombwatcher. Let's do hashes, because we don't have John's actual password. We just have the hash. So we can grab this, copy, paste, and the account is going to be cert_admin. So let's do this. And we should be able to get the NTLM hash of this account. We could try cracking it, but we really don't have to because we have the NTLM hash over cert_admin. There we go. So let's go ahead and copy this. So v creds.txt, and then cert_admin, paste that in. And then let's go ahead and run Certipy again. Certipy, we don't have the command handy. So Certipy find -u cert admin hashes, like that. target 10, 10, 11, 72. I'm going to do -vulnerable. So this will only show me vulnerable certificate templates. And I probably, yeah, that should be fine. We just need vulnerable ones. So I will close that window out. It shouldn't take too long. There we go. We have the output. I was about to say, going to pause the video and resume when it's done, but we have it. And right at the start, we see it is vulnerable to ESC 15, at least potentially, because it says only applicable if the environment has not been patched. See CVE 2024-49019 or the wiki for more details. And the vulnerability is enrollee supply subject and schema version is 1. Essentially, to my understanding, when I'm not an expert on this attack, but we can actually do some type of weird spoofing in this certificate, right? The EKU, this is what the certificate is good for. We can use this template to actually say we're anything, right? Because if we supply the subject, we can put different EKUs in it, right? This certificate's only supposed to give us server authentication, but we can also add other policies like certificate request agent and then exploit ESC3. We wouldn't be able to replay it against this template specifically because its EKU is only valid for server authentication. But if we find other templates that are on template version 1, or schema version 1, I should say, then we'll be able to replay the certificate and use it against that. The wiki does a much better job explaining it than I do. If we just Google like Certipy GitHub, go to it, we can talk about it. I'm not going to go that in depth because this is a patch thing, so it's pretty unlikely you'll actually exploit ESC 15 in the wild. That being said, if you do find some domains that are vulnerable, that haven't been patched in like a year, you can do it, right? But if we go to the Certipy wiki, this is a good place to start for any type of ESC 15 attack. Arbitrary application policy injection in V1 templates. And it has a lot of information about it. There we go. And then first it's going to try to use this client authentication. This will fail right away. I guess we can show it. Let's see. Let's do Certipy admin hashes. They're using, what is it? Request. We have target there. Let's see. We need the CA. Let's go grab the CA. Here it is. And then the template, web server. We'll do UPN, administer at Tombwatcher.htb. Is it -UPN? It is. -sid. Let's go back to Bloodhound. Go to administrator. And try to get the SID. There we go. Okay, we got the SID. What else do we need? The application policy. There we go. Denied. I bet the account is back to removed. Evil WinRM. Do we have history? We don't. Get 80 object. Filter. I don't even know the SID anymore. Include, deleted, objects, properties star. Let's see. Cert underscore admin. Do we have it up here? Please say we can find it. I think this is it. Yeah, we need the GUID here. This. Copy. It's going to kill this evil WinRM session, start it up again. Restore 80 object. I identity, that. And I typoed AD object. For some reason, the E on my keyboard just does not appear to be working well. There we go. So that should be good. Let's run this again. And we should get the certificate, hopefully. Target, yep, there we go. And now if we do, what is it like? Certipy auth pfx administrator target 10 10 11 72. Unrecognized option. Is it DCIP or something? DCIP. There we go. The certificate template and ensure it has the correct EKU. So this did not work for us. If we keep going down this path, I believe we'd be able to use LDAP shell. I forget exactly where to specify it. If we go to like the issues, they talk about it, but I get a weird SSL error because the Active Directory SSL is using SHA-1 and my host does not want to use SHA-1, and I've been having trouble setting my OpenSSL to be able to accept a weak hashing algorithm. So the way that worked for me to do this, oh, it's right here. Certipy auth pfx, it's LDAP-shell. There we go. This is what I get. And I had trouble fixing this, so I gave up trying to do this. And then I requested a certificate with the certificate request agent. And what that's going to do is give me a certificate that I can use to generate other certificates. So I'm going to put this policy in, and I'm going to get rid of the SID and UPN. Right? They don't have that. They don't. So we're going to request this. Access denied. There's no way my account already got removed. Let's try this again. I think it did. There we go. So now we have a certificate called certadmin.pfx. I'm actually going to delete the administrator one we created previously because that will no longer work. But now that we have this certificate, let's see. I want to keep this all. I don't want the template. There we go. We go to a different certificate that is vulnerable to ESC3. We should be able to take advantage of it. And I'm just going to use the user one, and it has client authentication as the EKU. So that should let me authenticate. So let's go ahead and do certify the CA. The template is just going to be user. The PFX is going to be certadmin.pfx. And then in this, they tell us to use the on behalf of. So let's do on behalf of. I'm going to say Tombwatcher /administrator. And this should give us a certificate that is valid for administrator. So let's go ahead and do this again. The PFX of administrator PFX and the DCIP. We get the administrator's NTLM hash. So now if I do evil winrm -i 1010 11 72 user administrator, the hash of this, we get logged in. So we can go to desktop and then get root.txt that way. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Take care, and I will see you. actually, I lied. There's one last thing I wanted to show. I troubleshooted a bit with Cody or Control0 on HackTheBox, and we found out why I kept getting that CAMD2 week on one of these certificates. And I wanted to show this because it's a bit odd. I install Certipy with UV, and UV mucks with the environment and prevents us from putting a bypass in OpenSSL to allow the weak certificate. So let's go ahead and just quickly get to where we can do this. I'm first going to create a Kerberoast config because I think we're going to use Kerberoast at some point. So I want to make sure I have this done. So we're going to do a NetExec smb dco1.tombwatcher.hdb and then generate KRB, I think it's 5 config. And then I'm going to call this Tombwatcher.krb5. The name doesn't exactly matter. Let's see. Is it file, not config? That looks like it's working. Because after we do this, I'm just going to CP this config over top of my Etsy KRB5. So we've done that. Now I want to make that Certipy request, and I'm just going to copy and paste something. We did this earlier in the video. I just wanted to show I'm getting my new PFX file. Let's do a rm stir.pfx stir.ccache. Okay, that's good. And now we're just going to run this. And this is the first method of the ESC16. And we got an access denied. Maybe I have to restore the AD object. Let's try this again. Requesting certificate. Come on. But I'll try running it with Certipy first, and we're going to show that it fails, right? So if we do a Certipy auth pfx, I said pfx administrator, dash username administrator, and we can do this because in this certificate request, we set the user principal name to administrator, right? And we also gave ourselves the client authentication application policy. So we're going to do a auth pfx username administrator domain tombwatcher.hdb. I don't think I actually need that because the domain's in the ticket, but we're going to try this anyways. And we'll do LDAP shell. And this is what I kept getting, the CAMD2 week. And if you go to like the issue on Certipy, they have a config we wanted to push in. So I'm going to add this real quick. I did add this to my, user lib ssl openssl.conf. I have that here and it didn't take effect. So I was a little bit confused. But you can also specify a config like this. So I'm going to put that there because I'm going to do it as an environment variable so I don't have to muck with my whole system config, which is probably the better way to do it, right? So what this is going to say is the minimum protocol is going to be TLS version 1.2 and security level is going to be 0, which is going to allow any type of hashing algorithm for that CA. So theoretically, all I should have to do is OpenSSL_conf is equal to this file and then rerun the command. And I'm actually going to use my up arrow and do this. And I'm still going to get that CAMD2 week. Now, my Certipy is actually installed with UV. So if I do a which Certipy, if we do lsla here, there's probably a better way to identify it's being ran by LV or UV, but you can see that's where it's mapped. And this, I think, is virtualizing the entire Python environment, including the Python version. And I think that's where this comes into play because maybe it can't like read the environment variable I'm passing in here, can't read this file. I did like a fully qualified path, still didn't work. I don't know what's going on under the hood that breaks this, but we're now going to install Certipy with pip. And the reason why I installed it with UV is Certipy says it requires version, 3.12 for Python, and my parrot's only on 3.11. But it turns out you don't need 3.12, you can just change it. So I'm going to git clone in Certipy, and now we can do a pipx install dot, And it's going to error here because it wants to see Python 3.12. My Python is 3.11. Now, I normally don't recommend doing this, but in this case, it seems to work. But I go in the pyproject.toml file, and I'm just going to change the requirement to say, hey, work with Python 3.11, please. And now when I do a pipx install, it's probably going to say it's already installed. But let's see. Yeah, it says it's installed because I had already installed it once. So what we want to do is use the pipx version, not the UV version. So I'm just going to specify the full path. So that's going to be my home, .local, pipx, virtual environments, certipy, bin, and then the certipy bin here. So this is what we're going to use. I'm just going to hit my up arrow until we get to the same exact command we ran. This is the certipy with UV. I'm just going to delete this, put the pipx here, and now we're going to rerun it. And magically, it's going to connect because now it's taking our correct OpenSSL.config. At least I think it's going to connect. There we go. And now we're in LDAP shell. I think I've done this before. If we do ipsec.rocks, do I have LDAP shell? Maybe I haven't done it before. But this is Impacket's LDAP shell. We can do various things. We could add like RBCD to a computer. We can add a user to the administrator group, and that's what I'm going to do. Let's see, get user groups. Where is it? I think it's up top here. Let's see, add computer, add user to group. So this is going to be the one we use. Let's go to a new pane. I'm going to go creds. We're going to do a ps exec.py Alfred basketball at 10.10.11.72 to show this doesn't work, right? Because we're not an administrator. But now we're going to add user to group, Alfred administrators, and Alfred has been added to that group. So now we're going to run this and we're going to get a shell as administrator. So that is doing the box, this method of ESC16, and how to fix that CAMD 2 weeks. So if you install it with UV like I do, it's really a big pain to fix that. I would recommend using pipx install. And if I figure out how to fix this in UV, I'll probably make a special video showcasing it because I'm sure this is going to come up again. So with that being said, that's going to be a video. Take care all, and I'll see you all next time.